Hi there. This is my reflection for Module 6, specifically around data, evidence, and decision making. And in this class, we had Amanda Clark, uh, professor from the Carleton University School of Public Policy and Administration, come in and be our guest lecturer. And I absolutely loved her lecture, particularly because she sort of connected data governance and neoliberalism in really interesting ways. And anytime we can have a critical conversation of the oppressive structures around neoliberalism, I'm all about it. So I definitely I did learn a lot and sort of made a lot of the connections of how to think about open government and data and open data sharing systems in a way that connects to um, a broader economic framework that we sort of operate under. So that was super interesting. Just pulling up my notes here from the class uh, and some of the questions that we sort of asked: under what conditions should data be shared across ministries and policy files? When should it be one use? Who decides? Where immense troves on data on citizens can be courts by civil servants and political leaders across government? How do we prevent privacy breaches and exploitation? Um, talking about Parliamentary Committee on Ethics and Privacy and sort of the intersection of privacy and open data sharing, and really understanding when is it appropriate to collect what type of data. We sort of went over an example in class around somebody that was non-binary and identified as trans, and so we talked about like when is it appropriate to collect, for example, information around gender identity, and that was an interesting point for me as somebody who's very interested in um, policy making and data and the availability of data to make policy decisions and make inform evidence-based policy around marginalized groups, and understanding some of the barriers that there are to collecting that data and capturing that data because of some of the barriers that marginalized groups face in traditional data collection methods. So I was thinking about that and really thought about it differently because I came to that class with the viewpoint that the more data we can collect to capture these uncaptured lived experiences of marginalized groups, the more as a policymaker we can leverage that data in order to make effective evidence-based policy, particularly when you know um, the lived experiences of marginalized people are often invalidated, unintentionally or intentionally, through the calls of more data to prove that very lived experience. And it usually doesn't happen um, to more privileged identities that have more of a voice in our society, and therefore more of a voice in government, more of a voice in public consultations when we do public policy. Um, and so it was really an interesting debate that I was having in my own head as Amanda was talking, and we were talking as a class about some of the issues that she had, and just to sort of talk a little bit about why the neoliberalism aspect, like analyzing open government and the data sharing open system economy, uh, really interested me was because uh, there are neoliberal beliefs about the limited role of government around regulating open data sharing, and just you know the extent of the role of government to just provide the data openly so that private players can take advantage of and leverage that data in ways that government can't, or if they can, they don't think they should. It's not the place of government. It's only the place of the private sector or for profit making purposes. So that was a really interesting topic, and I honestly, I was grasping a little bit, trying to connect the two, and I'm really interested in learning more about that connection between neoliberalism and the framework of neoliberalism, and sort of how that influences government's role in this open data sharing system, open data sharing economy. So definitely that's something that I want to do some more further personal research on, and potentially grab a book somewhere to learn more about, especially as I'm heading into my co-op with the Ontario Digital Service. So yeah, so these have been my thoughts for Module 6, our class on March 14th. And thanks again for listening.